Spooky Tuesday.
Show me how he works, okay?
Hi, I'm Andy. What's your name? Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
Wow, he's something, isn't he?
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this is a very special episode because this is the first episode of something very special we're doing here at Spooky Tuesday. It is officially Doll Month, motherfuckers.
Doll Month!
We should upgrade and get one of those shock jock kind of
sound effect
air
boxes?
horn. Yeah, for sure. That just says Doll Month.
Maybe
Something
one
like
of
that.
us just buys a whole keyboard that has sound effects on the keys, you know?
Ooh,
And
James
then we could
has a
also
keyboard.
be a musical podcast.
Oh my god, wow. Okay, something to consider. But anyway, Doll Month is a horrible idea hatched in hell that we all love. And basically, for the next month, all you get is doll shit from us. Nothing else. Dolls, marionettes. Pretty much that's it. Dolls and marionettes.
Puppets. But that's kind of the same thing as marionettes.
Puppets, sorry. Yeah. Marionettes is the more fun word to say than
ventriloquist dummies?
Yes,
we have one of those.
That's it too. We have a ventriloquist dummy coming up as well.
Wow. What a variety of dolls.
A variety. Truly, we're going across the whole spectrum of dolls. I will be bringing in a doll from my own childhood home to be a guest on one of our next, probably on our Annabelle creation episode. But today, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Today, we're starting with the OG. This is not the first, but it is the most well-known, probably, I would say. We are starting with 1988's glorious film, Child's Play. And I mean, I've seen this movie only once before, and it is more fucked than I was expecting. Something about that 88 kind of, not CGI, but puppeteer work that comes with any film just really hits nice in this one. But I know Sydney's seen it before. Chelsea, this was your first time?
It's my first time. Obviously, I had a cultural awareness of Chucky, although I spelled his name wrong until halfway into the movie in my notes. I just spelled it like Chucky Finster from Rugrats. Not correct in this case, although he is also a redhead, a true redhead king. But I had some awareness. I have some awareness of Tiffany, who's from Bride of Chucky, which is the third sequel, maybe, because they go Chucky, Chucky 2, Chucky 3, Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, and then things kind of go off the rails after
There's
that.
A Curse of Chucky. I do believe there is also a Cult of Chucky.
And then there was
the remake.
Yeah, exactly. There's a 2019 remake, Child's Play, which I almost watched on accident at first.
I heard it's actually pretty good. I haven't seen that one because I love the original one so much, but
totally
reading
about
it, really a lot of people said it. Interesting.
Well, on Rotten Tomatoes, it got 63% fresh or something like that, which is comparable to how the original performed. So I would be curious to watch and see how it goes. It the Chucky sequel is very much veered into silly horror comedy territory. This was very much a straight shooter scary, even though obviously it's the same kind of thing where we were talking about on the Ready or Not episode, where it's it was very terrifying to people at the time. Looking back, it's kind of just campy and funny to us. But it was trying to be serious, and I think they really kept that same vibe for the reboot. But this one, it's we're watching it in a 2021 lens, and it's very silly, and it's just very funny.
I still felt fear though. Okay,
you did?
Well,
yeah, a little bit.
This movie is so good because it has so many different elements of like multiple horror movies, like all in one. You have a doll that is possessed. You have the slasher killer that is catching up with its victims. You have the helpless child that should not be left alone. It's a psychological horror as well because it kind of lingers with you, especially when you're young. Like that. And then it's gory. Like, there's some gore to it. And did either of you have a buddy doll growing up? Do either of you know what a buddy doll is?
I didn't know it was a real thing until I was reading the trivia, and I was like, oh, so unfortunate that this movie destroyed that entire line of dolls.
We had a family friend who I love dearly named Kayla, and she had a buddy doll that they still have, I'm sure. And she was obsessed with this doll. And I, a small child who watched Chucky way too early because that is Monica's face.
Classic.
I think she just
Yeah.
Googled what a buddy doll was.
Okay, the buddy doll looks literally exactly like Andy. Exactly like Andy. That is Andy, the child from this film.
Yes, and like Chucky looks like creepily like it, except it's a redhead. And what is this movie saying about redheads?
I know, it's more slander on the name of redheads everywhere.
We love redheads on this podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna stand up for redheads here, but I don't need to defend redheads. Everybody knows that they're great, and I was gonna say people just like the rest of us, but I just am. They're not different, you know. They're just people, and some of them are my best friends. Anyway, but I also looked up buddy dolls when I was reading IMDb trivia. I also looked up the Corky doll. I'm sorry, I'm charging along. I looked up the Corky doll, who is also a redhead, and when you look at the Corky doll and also the buddy doll, it is very clear that someone said these two dolls are gay and they made a baby, and that baby is, I believe his name in the movie is actually Oscar. I don't know if that was just the doll in the commercial, but the good guy's doll introduces himself in the commercial as Oscar. I do wonder, okay, I'm going to launch into some movie talk real quick instead of prefacing or whatever. But in the movie,
let's launch in.
Let's go, baby. But in the movie, in the commercial, we see the good guys commercial. The doll is named Oscar, and then immediately when they get the doll, the mom, who is the mom from Seventh Heaven, by the way? Did you guys?
Yes.
Because
I know. Yeah, I was a Christian child at one point in my life, and I was like, I love Seventh Heaven. I'm eating up all of this propaganda. Me and Mommy and Daddy watched it every Monday.
Did you really?
Yes, we did.
Oh my god, I definitely watched it after school because it was part of the Fox Family, back when it was Fox Family. It was part of the Fox Family after school programming with Gilmore Girls, and so I would watch all of those shows when I got home from school. But what is insane to me is that Child's Play came out in 1988, and then they were like, what if we took the mom from Child's Play and put her in the most wholesome family show ever? And then Seventh Heaven came later. But they covered serious storylines, you guys. Like, one episode, Mary Camden gave somebody Tylenol, and it was a big deal.
But oh my god, hard drugs?
Hard drugs at school? Can you believe her?
Wow,
anyway. So the mom from Seventh Heaven is in this movie, but her name is Karen Barclay. And she really wants to buy this good guy's doll for her son for his birthday. The dad is dead. They don't really lay that out clearly in the beginning for you, but it's like,
I didn't know he was dead.
She is poor-ish, even though they have this nice apartment and he has all these other toys, but she's having trouble affording this doll. She just didn't save up early in the month, and then her best friend, whom I'm in love with, Maggie, is like, don't worry, there's somebody in the alley who's selling this doll for cheap. It's not suspicious. You should buy it. And she's like, amazing.
Doll peddler. The doll peddler that's always in the alley, that's always selling dolls, is here, and it has that one doll you want. I
You
thought
know
the
how
whole idea of
peddlers
that
are in
was
the
very
alley.
exciting.
Yeah, you know what peddlers are like.
I would love to buy my child a gigantic creepy
It's
doll
so big.
It's too
from
big.
like a sketchy man in an alley behind my department store job. That's on my parenting list that I hope that I
Oh,
can
of course.
experience one day.
I know you will do that. And also, I would like to dabble in the doll black market. Because I believe that I was like, haha, this is hilarious. It's like there's a doll black market. And then I thought about it for 1 second more and I was like, of course, Monica, of course there's a doll black market. There's 100%. Like a Silk Road channel that's all about dolls.
Oh yeah. And I mean, there are always those things where it's like, this Christmas the hot doll is XYZ and it's sold out in September, so better luck next year, parents.
Tickle Me Elmo. I remember the Tickle Me Elmo hype was unreal. You want to Tickle Me Elmo? You have to sell like a body part in order to get one.
Another redhead doll, by the way.
Whoa.
There was some egg
Much to
something
think about.
recently.
Oh, the Hatchimals!
Yes. And my
something.
mom had like 2 and she was buying them for my cousin. But my cousin ended up getting them, and so my mom put them on eBay and just let them bid out, and she made like hundreds of dollars off of these 2 eggs.
Wow.
Kids get like obsessed with whatever the hot toy is, and then parents just have to either be resigned to their child hating them, or they have to sell their soul for a good guy's doll. You know what I mean? So she gets there, and the guy's like $50, and she's like, and Maggie's like, she'll give you 10. He says 30. Seventh Heaven Mom is like, perfect, I'll do that. So she buys this back alley doll for her son, but when they bring it home, they're like, here's the doll. It's the box enormous. Can't get over that. Can't overstate it. So large.
Truly the size of the child.
Yeah, the size of the child. 100%.
Also, I really like that the doll is so large, and at times in the movie, it is even larger. The size of Chucky varies throughout the film, and it's spectacular.
But I just, I found it very interesting that when he opened the doll up, the doll immediately is like, hi, I'm Chucky. And it's like, okay, do all the dolls have different names and just the one in the commercial is Oscar? Did that not immediately red flag this doll is different? Something is wrong here with this back alley doll?
No. In the movie, they say like all the dolls come with their own name. Like they're all different names.
I was wondering that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, from a production standpoint, that seems difficult to do, but also it's a movie, you know.
There's probably like 10 names, and
10
they cycle
names.
through them.
Steven, John, Oscar, Chucky.
Those are all the names. Those are all of them. No J names.
No J
names. Maybe.
Ooh, I'd love a little Zachariah in the little overalls. Very cute.
Yeah, I feel like Zachariah would be a good one. Okay, then I just spent a lot of time setting up the movie for a point that did not pay off. I will say there were a lot of times watching this movie where I was like, you know how I am obnoxious, I guess, is one word you could use if you were mean. But how I will watch a movie and then be like, actually, this doesn't make sense, and like, why did they do this? And I'll look for like the logical things. But I would say a good 75% of the time when I had one in this movie, they would answer it like within 5 minutes. And I was like, whoa.
The plot is airtight.
Amazing.
I love that the movie Child Play with like a like demonically possessed like doll has an airtight plot for Chelsea.
I mean,
she's like, this movie seals the deal.
To a degree, because, you know, the thing is, I was going to say the first death. It's not the first death, because the movie opens with the Strangler, notorious serial killer. They just called him Ray at first, and I was like, his name is Ray? Why does everybody call him Chucky? And I was getting upset. And then they introduced his full name as Charles Lee Ray, which they took a little bit from a bunch of other real-life serial killers, which is fun. Or not serial
Very fun.
killers exclusively, because one of them is the guy who assassinated.
Yeah, Charlie Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, right?
And then
And
the person who killed Martin Luther King Jr., which I was like, whoa. You know,
yeah, I was like, geez.
just you know, Charles, not that Charles Manson is a fun guy or that his crimes were fun, because they certainly were not, but to be like
I don't know,
the
they're
person who
pretty fun.
assassinated a civil rights leader and the person who assassinated a president is a little bit different than serial killer cult leader. You know what I mean? But I guess in
No,
the
I'm with
80s
you.
maybe they hadn't caught the Night Stalker yet, and so, you know, they were just like wilding out.
There are only a few to choose from, and so they made do.
Yeah, and so they were just like Charles Lee Wright. Anyway, that's his name. But so the movie opens with him running away from the cops, and then he is trying to escape them, but he's like, "Oh no, I'm dying. I have to put my soul into this Chucky doll. Well, good guy's doll, Oscar or Zachariah. We don't know what he was originally.
It was probably Zachariah.
That particular one, who can say? So and then in doing that process, his little bout of witchcraft, lightning strikes the building and explodes it for some reason.
Yeah. See, here's the whole thing for me. I had obviously knew all about Chucky before watching this movie because I'm alive. And I've been to Halloween Horror Nights, and he's there every year. And yeah, and also I'm pretty sure I have like a flashbulb memory of being a child at my aunt's house, and Bride of Chucky was on, and I kind of watched it from the other room, and it scared the pants off of me. Yeah, and so I don't know what I thought was up with Chucky where he was alive. I thought that he just, like, you know, was alive and that was just what was going to happen. I just never expected it to be like a serial killer using voodoo witchcraft to, like, impart his soul into the body of a little doll. Like, that's not what I expected, and I loved that backstory. I also loved the serial killer, what's his name? Charles Lee Ray. Is that his name? Charles Lee Ray, I loved his whole look, and his long spooky hair, the big eyes, the suit, and I thought he was kind of hot, and then I felt bad about that.
I think that's the right feeling, because I didn't clock that, but also, you know, to each their own.
He was giving me like young Filch energy.
I am so upset that you just said that.
Well,
okay.
It's true.
But can we talk about how the cop who shot him and kills him and is hitting on Seventh Heaven Mom and
I also
not
thought he was hitting on
them?
Seventh Heaven Mom. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah,
Agreed.
she is. He is Prince Humperdinck from The Princess Bride.
Yes.
He looks familiar, and I was like, why do I hate his face? And then I read the trivia, and I was like, oh, because he's only played horrible characters before this one.
Yeah, I've never put the two and two together. I've always been like, this guy looks so familiar. And when doing all my research, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's because he has previously played a shithead.
Yeah. I will say that, like, I didn't feel any sort of, like, ooh, he's sexy vibes the whole movie, except for at the very beginning, because he was wearing that white cable knit sweater, which I thought was a interesting choice for, like, a potential chase, because it could get very dirty, and then it did. But also, apparently, there's, like, a deleted part of the movie at the beginning where he was, like, cross-dressing as a woman undercover. Yeah, and so I guess maybe the cable knit sweater was part of that, and then he, like, rips off his dress and his wig at the beginning, and then chases after the serial killer. So, like, I think they should have kept that in. It would have been fun. It was a short movie anyway. They could have added in a few more minutes for me to see him in cross-dress. That would be fun for all of us. I think
that would appeal to you as well. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I also
would've been
thought
into it.
at first when you were saying that you were still talking about Charles Lee Ray and that you only thought he was sexy in the beginning and not the rest of the movie, and I was gonna be like, Monica, the rest of the movie he's a doll. But also after The Fly, like, would not be shocked. You know, like my standards for you guys are so different now.
No, I will tell you, I'm gonna be. This is a point of contention. I'm sure we're not gonna see eye to eye here, but Chucky, not hot. I'm so sorry.
Okay, I have a question though. Since it is a live human man, like in the body of a doll, but he's snuggling with a 6-year-old boy all the time. Like,
Well, they did a couple different things. So they have some animatronics, and then they also have some children who play Chucky at some point, and then they also have some little people who play Chucky at some point. So like in the scene when Maggie is there babysitting and you see Chucky run behind her in the back of the room, that was Andy, the actor, Alex Vincent, his younger sister played was like a small child running across the room, and in the scene at the end with the fireplace, that was a little person playing Chucky, and because the little person is larger than the Chucky doll they also built a whole set that was like 30% larger than the set they used so that it would be like to scale. So they were doing a lot of different techniques to bring Chucky to life. And
I love that.
And so hopefully, well, but if it was a real adult actor snuggling with a child, you know, that's not weird necessarily.
I feel like in most of the snuggle scenes, it's pretty clear that Chucky is a doll. Like at that point, like it's actually a doll.
Yeah. And we don't see Chucky like moving and saying things very much at that point in the movie.
can we talk about Maggie's death? Because
yes, that's what I was starting to bring up earlier, and then I got sidetracked talking about the opening scene.
I love Maggie as a character.
Me too.
She didn't deserve to die.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, her death scene, she did deserve that because it was just as iconic as her.
It was like Jada Pinkett Smith in Scream 2. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if this character's gonna die, they're gonna go out in style, and I love that for them.
Okay, yes. Well, I don't agree because one, I wanted her to live forever because she's so iconic, and I love that she just absolutely shits on their supervisor. What was his name? His name Walter. That man should have died. I would have loved to see him die. He was such a douchebag. I hated him. But I just felt bad because like she was such an iconic bad bitch, even though she gaslit the hell out of Andy, but she didn't know she was gaslighting him, okay? It's not her fault.
And he clearly didn't hold it against her too much because she was calling him a little liar for 5 minutes straight, but then she was like, all right, anyway, good night, give Aunt Maggie a kiss, and he was like, that was a kiss.
He's very generous
if it didn't come through.
Kisses.
Yeah. They still had a sweet moment. I was like, all right.
I just feel bad that she like didn't have a chance to like put up a fight. She got knocked in the head with literally a child's fake hammer and then flew like 10 feet through the air into the window and then out 20 stories to her doom. Like I was like, she deserves like an epic fight scene or something, but it was just like one and done and it was over.
That's true. But
she did it so well.
Yeah, the absolute drama of her falling out the window was so funny to me, and I just loved it so much because it was so unbelievably over the top. You know what I mean? Like one little conk, and she just goes like tumbling backwards. That was the thing. You know, people say that this movie was really scary at the time. And I know even people our age who grew up with like, well, maybe not people our age, but people who grew up with like special effects being what they are now can still watch this movie and be scared, especially if you see it at a younger age. But to me, so many of the attacks are so comical because like they're cartoonish, you know what I mean? and
his little angry face, like how they make the puppet look so angry, is just hilarious. It's just
even
so
that
good.
aside, it's like, okay, to skip around a little bit, and just talk about some of the attacks in this movie. You know, Maggie, as we've mentioned, gets one little conk on the head, and she goes flying backwards, absolutely soaring through the air, to the degree that she doesn't just bump into the window on the other side of the room. She breaks the window and lands on a car below. We also get when the cop is in the car and
Oh my god.
he's just like stabbing with the knife like through the car seat.
Through the whole chair. That's
Yeah,
a
through
lot
the whole
of
chair,
fabric to
and the
get
cop
through.
is just like oop oop oop, just like hopping around trying to avoid it. And then it like comes up through the seat of the chair, and it like almost hits him in his groin. You know what I mean? It's just, it was very like silly to me. But I will say some of it was scary, like at the end when Chucky was like stabbing through the door. A clear reference to The Shining, and that one actually is a clear reference to The Shining.
Yeah, 100%.
But some of them were scarier. Like when Dr. Ardmore was attacked at the hospital, that was kind of scary. When John was attacked, that was scary. You know,
Yeah.
Eddie.
Oh my
I
god.
liked Eddie's death actually. I thought that one was an interesting one.
Let's talk about that, because my first thought was just like, why is not one single person on any of these trains that young Andy is on by himself being like, there is a 4-year-old, 5-year-old child here, and he is alone, and he's whispering into a doll's ear the whole ride, and no one is watching him. Like, that's a big red flag.
I will say,
like, just
one
let
thing,
him go. He's on his commute.
Everybody's just like, he's fine. But I loved that, and I don't think this was intentional. I think this was just a little boy being a little boy, but he kept holding Chucky by the neck, and I was like, the strangler's getting strangled. Like, this is karmic justice. And I loved that he was just carrying him around by the neck half of the movie.
Yeah, I also thought that Andy had like an iconic look during that scene too. He was wearing like, I guess, like snow pants that were overalls with a matching jacket that had like a very cool applique on the back, and I was just like, swagged out right now. Andy's walking down the street. No one gives a shit that he doesn't have any adult with him, because he just looks like he knows what he's doing. They trust him. They're like, that kid's going places.
Listen, in Chicago, if you walk with confidence, nobody will bother you. It doesn't matter how old you are.
It doesn't matter if you're a 6-year-old.
You walk and they're like, nah, they're fine. Also, I forget that you two grew up in like Southern California and didn't grow up with snowsuits.
Oh
like,
yeah,
that was so common for us.
Monica and I were not snowsuit public transportation children.
No, I didn't even get my license till I was 21. I was a no transportation child.
I didn't grow up with public transportation, but I did 7 years in Ohio, like a prison sentence. And we did have snowsuits.
Yeah, I've only been snowboarding one time, and it was a horrible, hellish experience. And I also only want a snowsuit if it's one of those ones from the 80s that's like super tight on the bottom and then like big poofy jacket on the top. I almost bought one, but then I was like, I'm not going to the snow anytime soon, not even for leisure, so absolutely not worth the investment.
That said, he does look iconic, and I guess I mean, maybe this is just like 2020 recency bias, you know what I mean? Like, latchkey kids were a thing. 6 seems a little young. I think it was his 6th birthday, and that seems a little young to me to be out and about on your own, especially in the middle of a school day. You know what I mean? He like fully ditches school to do this. But also, it wasn't until like the I think it was the late 80s. I think we've talked about this before with like Jacob Wetterling and the whole Stranger Danger campaign. Maybe that was around this time or slightly earlier. Can't say off the top of my head. But it was different back then. Like, kids back then could just like walk home from school by themselves and like have a key to their house and go home, or like hang out on the front porch. You know what I mean? that wasn't so much a thing when we were little, or at least my mom terrified me and traumatized me and told me I would get kidnapped if I ever walked anywhere alone. And I never go anywhere alone to this day.
My parents always told me that if I got kidnapped, they would immediately return me after spending like any time with me. They'd be like, not worth it. And it's true, like I would walk down the street on like a busy road and like go buy ice cream by myself, or like I was out of the house all day by myself constantly. So I have no fear.
I mean, I don't want you to be afraid of being kidnapped, but also, you are worthy of being kept by any kidnapper out there, Sydney. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Anybody would have loved to steal you, Sydney. Come on.
You know, don't get kidnapped, but also you're great.
You're great.
It's really all I'm trying to communicate.
Lovable. Meanwhile, I was an only child, so I wasn't going fucking anywhere without mommy knowing about it. And my favorite song growing up was Overprotected by Britney Spears, so that says it all.
I have a question that has been bothering me about this movie. Chucky is, even though he's a doll, he's a human, but he's a doll.
Mm-hmm.
And does he have regular human strength, but is doll size? Does he have child strength? Does he have superhuman strength? Like, how is he able to, like...
was going in a super different direction, and I was getting nervous.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, Chucky. You're no longer the good girl of the pod if you have this dirty of a mind.
First of all, you don't even know what I thought it was, and I'm not gonna say, but just because I know Sydney doesn't mean that I'm not a nice girl.
No, but it's like, okay, so for me, the scariest part of this movie is when, after they find Andy at Eddie's, and the mom goes, and they put him in the psych ward, and the mom goes back to their house, and she's throwing the box away, and she sees the batteries that the dog came with fall out of the box.
And can I just say, what a scam that they're like official Good Guys brand batteries, which means you have to buy more Good Guys brand batteries when those ones die instead of regular batteries. This company really was out there doing it all. They're like, we have toys, we have dolls, we have clothes, we have blah, blah, blah. We've got a TV show. Wow.
We have batteries.
Batteries.
This is
guns.
But so she realizes that this doll's been talking without batteries, so she's like, oh my god, my son is right. And eventually she threatens to throw Chucky in the fireplace, and so he comes to life and is like, you're a fucking slut.
Does he call her a slut?
Yes!
I thought, it's something like that. He was like,
he's
you whore, or something like really
it's
scary.
like something just like, what? Like, what? And
that's so mean.
He's like strangling her, and she's like having a hard time fighting him off, and I'm like, he's a doll. It shouldn't be that hard. But then I'm like, does he have like adult man strength in a tiny doll body? And because is the body so small, does it make the adult man strength even stronger?
It's something with the magic that he did. The power of the lightning is within him, maybe, because he was struck by it.
Both a doll and also he's Thor, God of Thunder.
Yes, that's clear. I thought that was very clear in the film.
I mean, that is a good question, because I felt that he maybe he got stronger as the film went on, and as John, Mr. Voodoo Daddy tells us, he becomes more human, so maybe in the beginning he's like just a normal little doll, and then as he becomes blood and muscle and bone or whatever, things change, but there is a scene at the end where one-handed he is choking a police officer out. So clearly he does have a pretty impressive, with those tiny little doll hands too. So like really just latch onto that Adam's apple, I guess. I don't know. But clearly he has a good amount of strength, and I think it's got to be one of those things. Like we talked about it on the Fly episode last week, where I was like, flies aren't even that strong proportionally. And then you're like, well, but they're stronger than a human, and I was like, okay, but shouldn't it be somewhere in the middle? And then you guys were like, he's been genetically modified. I think Monica's right. We just have to go with there's magic and lightning involved, and we can only assume that it would supercharge a body. I don't know.
Especially a small little body like that. All of that energy in such a small vessel. Oh my god.
But that makes it even more scarier. Like a tiny doll with super strength now makes it even scarier for me.
He's too big to begin with. No doll should be that big, but also no doll that is big but still so small should be able to yeet the love of my life, Maggie, out the window with one little hammer punch to the face. Like it's too much. But also like this guy is an evil genius. He was before. He knew. He's like freaking Voldemort, man. He's like, I am super evil and I'm going to do a bunch of evil shit and I must be able to live forever in order to do this. So he like found out a way to make a freaking Horcrux, and we're not even at Hogwarts. It's really alarming stuff. And I just also have this very disturbing mental image of like the process by which the fluff that I would understand is inside of the doll's body slowly turns into like muscle and blood and a heart and lungs and everything, and it's really 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 upsetting to me.
One thing that I think is interesting that is only sort of well, not sort of, it's a plot point, but it's sort of touched on grand scheme in this movie, and I guess it's kind of addressed further in the sequels, which I think I've seen some of Bride of Chucky because I have very strong memories of Tiffany. But other than that, I don't think I've seen anything, so I don't really know where they go with this. But John they called him Dr. Death at one point in the IMDb trivia. I don't know where that came from. Maybe it gets mentioned in sequels. I don't think it got mentioned in this movie. But his like voodoo teacher taught him how to do this, and he knows the chant well enough to do it from memory under extreme circumstances, but he didn't know that it would slowly turn the vessel human. Maybe he's not supposed to do it with an inanimate object, and he was only gonna do it to another person and like steal their body. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like we don't know how he intended to use it. We just know he kind of was like stuck in a bind in the beginning, and he was dying, and he was like, well, I'm face to face with this doll right now. Might as well give it a shot because either it works or I die. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, I'm dying anyway. But so clearly he didn't really know the full effects. But that was one of the things that I was working on in my notes, where I was like, how does this really make sense? Like, how strong can he really be as a doll? Like, why are his knees bending like that if he's a doll and the doll's not meant to bend that way? Like, why is he feeling pain? Does this doll have nerve endings? That doesn't make sense. And then 5 minutes later, they were like, guess what? Here's your answer. And I was like, oh, wow, look at this smart little movie laying it all out for me.
They make it very clear. I also just like feel so bad for Dr. Death in this movie because he's just a nice man out in the world who is filled with magical abilities, and he chose the wrong person to teach his magic to. And then his death is probably one of the scariest ones because like one, just voodoo dolls in general really fuck me up, and it's terrifying to even think about that someone could just absolutely destroy you and not even be in the same vicinity. And two, bones breaking is just really not my thing, and that was oh my god,
bones breaking.
Ugh.
And also, John was a certified hottie.
So
that's sad too.
He was.
Oh my god,
he's like, I'm a hottie, I'm a good person. I probably didn't know Charles Lee Ray was a strangler when I taught him this stuff, you know? He's like,
he was just impressed by his long, luscious hair.
He just immediately...
I do want to know how they met. Like, I want a backstory.
He should get his own movie. We keep making Chucky movies. Give us a Dr. Death movie, first of all.
Yeah, good name. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Right? Like, I want a prequel.
And
Okay.
John, I just feel like he was like a nice man, and I liked him a lot. And, you know, he realized he had inadvertently put all of this harm into the world by teaching a serial killer these things, and also teaching the serial killer that he's gonna have to murder a 6-year-old child. And even in his like dying, gasping breaths, once the cop and Seventh Heaven mom got there, he was like, "You have to save the boy." To the last moment, he was trying to do what was right, and I thought
Yes.
that was beautiful. And he's wonderful, and I love him a lot.
I love him so much, and he deserves much more than just a 5-minute scene. But this, okay, brings me to a point that I wanted to make, and that is, did Candyman, in part, plagiarize the film Chucky? It's a great film. It's all of its own. But also, Andy's plight is very similar to the main character in Candyman. What's her name? Bernadette?
Helen.
Bernadette's our girl, excuse me. Yeah, there's a lot of parallels there. She's being gaslit. He's being gaslit. He's being accused of crimes that he did not commit. And he's put into an insane asylum. And then the person who caused all the problems in the beginning kills the doctor and blames it on them. Then also, there's a lot of murals that happen.
Oh, I was like, why did I think that I had Candyman vibes too? And I couldn't place it until you just talked about the murals. And I was like, oh, yeah, incredible artwork.
There's beautiful
And it's
murals.
set in Chicago.
And it's
true.
set in Chicago.
Wow.
All right. They were like, this is an adorable child, and there's a lot more to focus on in this movie, like a doll that's come alive and it's murdering people. But let's take that exact same movie and bring it into the adult space with Candyman. There you go. I think that there's a suit. I think there's grounds for a lawsuit here.
A clear reference.
It's a
from
clear
Candyman
reference.
to Child's Play.
Just
Invisible
saying,
Man wants what Candyman has, and Candyman wants what Child's Play has.
It's a through line. It's a clear reference.
I love that for this movie. And also Candyman.
Also, let's just put some shine on Andy in general. Baby Andy is an incredible baby actor.
Yes.
He is the cutest baby I've ever seen, maybe. He made me feel motherly feelings, and I'm a person who doesn't want children, so that was a shock. And he's got a good bowl cut, which I love in a little tiny guy. So I'm happy for him.
Okay, but I also never want him to make me breakfast.
Oh my god.
But he's just doing his best.
That was
I know,
his
but
birthday.
it's so chaotic.
It's his birthday, and he brought his mom breakfast in bed. That is a tiny little sweetheart prince of a boy.
Sweetie.
It's so sweet, but that is just so chaotic. The breakfast, the burnt toast with ice cream.
That wasn't ice cream, Sydney. That was butter. That was freaking, I can't believe it. Was a big thing of butter, and he scoops that much butter and hunks it onto the bread. That's what that was.
I can't decide if that's better or worse
than
it being ice cream, actually.
It's worse, because it's an alarming amount of butter, but also it was really, really funny. And I was like, honestly, relatable. That's how much butter I want on any given day, so.
I do love butter.
He just wanted mom to have a nice morning. Like, this rock of bread is disgusting now, but if you put enough butter on it, it'll be fine.
I will say, Andy's a little sweetie, and I love him, and I think he is precious. And all the love to him. But also the way that his mom very carefully sidestepped having to eat any of that breakfast. Beautiful, iconic, seamless, you know what I mean? So elegantly done. She's a queen.
She's such a queen. She's such a good mom. She's such a great mom in every role that she's in. She's a wonderful
But
mother.
actually, she is, because there's that whole moment after Maggie dies, which again, R.I.P. to our wife Maggie. But when they're in the bedroom and it becomes clear that some tiny person stood on the counter and used some tiny person's tools or I guess the mom didn't know about the tools, but it was clear something funky was going on. And also Andy kept being like, my doll Chucky did all of this, and she started yelling at him, and he was like, are you just mad because of Aunt Maggie? And she was like, yes, you're right, and I love you. And I was like, that's nice parenting. This is a good communication moment.
Seriously.
She's a great parent. Like, most of the time you get like poor parental like representation in movies, but she is a good parent.
A-star, 10 out of 10.
She's also wearing boots that appear to be fur-lined, perhaps, and I just feel like that deserves a mention.
Boots with the fur?
Wow. That's the only sexy thing that she wears the entire movie. Like, she's got, like, the dowdy mom energy down pat, and I love that for her. But I also, something I love about this is that, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure the director fell in love with her while filming this movie, and they got married the next year.
Not the director, the person who created the Chucky doll.
Oh, wow, that's better. That's weirder. That's way weirder. It was like, so I love the way you killed that doll I made. Let's make out. I love it when you wear like 5 sweaters and tall boots, but your skirt is as long as the boots. Let's make out. It's a hot look. It's a hot look. And the little bob, she's rocking it.
She looks great. Like, very cool 80s aesthetic throughout this movie.
I mean, yeah, the 80s aesthetic is on point. I did have a point in my notes, though, where I was like, Maggie is so hot, but I wonder what she would look like without the perm. Have not Googled it. I suppose that's something that's within my power to do, but I think I like her as is. Okay, but to get back to the movie, just because we're already like 50 minutes in, you know, and there's a lot of ground we still haven't covered. I do have a couple more plot holes, which can be solved basically by just being like, cops are bad at their job. But the fact that the Strangler is like a well-known enough serial killer in the area that he has a nickname, and the fact that the cop, whose name I believe is Mike, is the cop chasing him at the beginning, and he knows his name is Charles Lee Ray, but he doesn't know that people called him Chucky when people start being like, this small child who was connected to a previous murder turned up at the location of a second murder where Charles Lee Ray's accomplice died. Nobody's putting the pieces together at that point. Nobody is like, hey, why is this why is this small child at the home of a murderer where this murderer is like hiding out, and also he has somebody named Chucky with him that he says committed the crime? Wouldn't your alarm bells be like, I mean, obviously you wouldn't, obviously wouldn't be like the doll is possessed.
The doll is killing people, though.
Right,
they're not
of course,
be like,
of course not. But wouldn't you be like, did Charles Lee Ray date this single mom, maybe, or something? You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you be suspicious for other reasons if you were a cop and you're investigating a literal serial killer and then the murders continue?
My first thought would be, did Charles Lee Ray train an army of child assassins to carry out his bidding after his death? That's the clear winner here.
Okay, but if the cop is hitting on this mom, and then he's like, oh, maybe her kid is doing all these murders, we can send this kid away, and then the kid won't be in our relationship, and so then I can just have the mom by myself.
No, that's sad.
I don't like that. I don't like it. He's in a good guy in this movie. He's still a cop, but he's an okay. He's not the worst cop in the movie.
He's a good-looking man. And okay, there was one thing though that he did that pissed me off, which is, you know, obviously when God, I want to call her Helen every single time, and I don't know where that came from. But when but when Karen Barclay, Mrs. Barclay, Seventh Heaven mom, goes to the cop initially to be like, okay, Chucky is alive after all, and I discovered this because he maybe called me a slut and tried to attack me. he's like, no, I don't believe you. What does he say? Because I wrote down the quote. He says, she says, I'm telling you the truth. Why won't you believe me? And he says, because I am sane, Mrs. Barclay. Sane and rational. I was like, fair enough, obviously. But then there's the whole scene where Chucky attacks him in the car and makes him crash and tries to stab him in the nuts through the car seat. And then when he meets back up with her afterwards, he's just like, I went to my office and I got the file. And he, believe it or not, Charles Lee Ray's nickname was Chucky. No mention of the fact that the doll attacked him. He does not bring it up at all. He still is like, you're crazy. No. I'm not ready to believe it yet. So I'm just going to pretend that didn't happen, but we'll look into this anyway. Instead of being like, sorry I called you crazy, you're right, the doll is alive.
Thank you. I wrote that in my notes too. I was like, okay, so he's never gonna admit that he was wrong and being a nasty bitch? Okay, great. That's clear that he's not willing to ever be wrong and he has some sort of masculinity complex thing going on right now. Oh, it made me so mad. Oh, also,
classic.
This is a non sequitur now, but I did find the quote of exactly what Chucky says when he finally reveals himself to Karen.
What's he say?
She said, I said, talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire. And Chucky says, you stupid bitch, you filthy slut, I'll teach you to fuck with me.
Wow, he's a rude little man.
And that's the part where his eyebrows are like angry. Angry puppet.
Very rude boy. I know he literally, I guess it's implied that his victims are women. I don't know for sure. But he was a strangler, so he is out there murdering people. I just feel like you don't have to call Aunt Maggie a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, that's too far. That crosses the line.
It's like way too far.
It's just like you can kill people, but like you're gonna call my wife a bitch? I don't think so.
Unnecessary.
Unacceptable.
But also another thing that pissed me off is that, and this is right around the same moment with the car, I guess, or maybe it's a little bit later. But they go to John's house and they're realizing, wait, is that where the Okay, it's before that moment. But there's just the moment where they're putting the pieces together and realizing that Charles Lee Ray and Chucky are the same person. And I'm like, Karen must have said something. I don't know what it was, but she was like, why didn't you tell me? And I was just like, okay, but your son literally did tell you, because there's that whole line in the beginning, and I wrote it in my notes. The quote is, his real name is Charles Lee Ray, and he's been sent down from heaven by Daddy to play with me. Which, first of all, terrifying. Hate that. Very scary. But, clearly she doesn't know who this strangler is, because she's too busy to watch the news. She's a single mom. She's got a lot of stuff on her plate. But the fact that that weird, very specific name didn't stick in her brain and, like, be familiar at all to her later on when they were like, there's a murderer, and also this doll whose name is Charles Lee Ray maybe did some murders. You know what I mean? I just feel like everybody was not paying attention very much, because it's only 3 days in this movie, and so from day 1 to day 3, you're not like, that kind of rings a bell. Like, ma'am, please pay attention to your son.
Here's the thing. I understand what you're saying, but also let us keep in mind that our girl Karen had literally just found out that her best friend, the light of her life, had just fucking died. So she was probably like, okay, honey, please shut up. I am very upset right now. I am distraught. Because they were such good, cute friends.
Yeah.
Or lady lovers. That's what I want.
Maybe. Who knows?
Also, this is just another non sequitur, but just a shout out to Andy's acting once again. The line when he says, look, you stay here. I have to go tinkle.
He's very sweet. There's that moment when they're in the bed and Chucky's like, I want to hug you or something. And then Andy is like, I love a hug. I was like, oh my God, my little heart. This sweet little precious babe.
He's gonna be so traumatized.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, yeah.
He fully is. Especially when they're in. I mean, like, it's one thing for your mom to get you the doll that you have been begging for and asking for, and you didn't get on your birthday, and you were super sad and disappointed, even though your mom is doing her best. And then you do get the doll, and not only does it try to kill you, but also it gets completely incinerated and keeps coming, and then it gets its head shot off and its arm shot off and then its leg shot off, and it still keeps coming. And okay, maybe this is time, because again, we're pretty far into this podcast.
Let's talk about the end. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about that last shot. Can we talk about that last shot, the closing shot of the film?
Yes, I totally remember exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
And it also struck me very deeply. Please say what it is, and for the audience.
I'll say what it is for anyone.
Is it with the other cop comes in and
Nope.
they're fighting?
Although that's great.
That's like, there's like part. 3 fake endings. There's like so many. Chelsea, tell the audience so they know.
For anyone listening who might not know, anyone who can hear me speaking in this moment, who might not know.
Definitely not me and Monica.
Nobody on this podcast. I know my co-hosts are all up to date on everything that happens in this movie. Page. Frame by frame, they could tell you every movie, every move. But you know, John, Dr. Death, my beautiful husband in this film, he lays out that to kill the doll, you have to get it in the heart, you know, and that's kind of a tough target, I guess. But it seems they finally do get it in the end when the cop, who presumably has some marksmanship training, you know, some target practice under his belt, finally gets the shot off, and they're like, Chucky's dead, yay. And you see like the light go out of Chucky's eyes, and he does one like line where he literally fades out or whatever. But then the last shot in the movie is Alex walking out of the room, but like then looking back at the Chucky doll and like staring at it. And it's like a lingering, suspicious shot of his face that left me questioning whether or not we were supposed to think that maybe Charles Lee Ray had completed the switch after all with Andy's body. I think obviously if that was the intention, clearly they abandoned that in the sequels. Don't know how Chucky comes back in the sequels, because, you know, again, he's pretty clearly dead at the end here, or at least whoever was in the doll is dead. But also, I found that shot very suspicious.
Oh my god, I hate that. No, he's not actually dead. Obviously, he's not dead because there's the Child's Play 2, Child's Play 3, The Bride of Chucky, The Seed of Chucky, The Cult of Chucky, The Curse of Chucky.
It's very Leprechaun, yeah.
Yeah, it's very Leprechaun.
A clear reference.
A clear reference. I feel like Chucky is just as influential as Leprechaun. Leprechaun, the root of everything, but also Chucky, the root of Candyman, and therefore everything.
Yeah, and also I feel like I know what Child's Play was trying to be. You know what I mean? Child's Play to me was very much trying to be a serious movie, even if it was funny. Whereas Leprechaun, I just don't know, and I'll never know.
There's
probably
no way to know what it was trying to be.
But Child's Play was trying to be a legit scary movie, and I think it accomplished that.
Yeah.
But that shot really left me being like, I don't know what's happening here, and I wonder if this was gonna be a different kind of movie until they were like, oh, people love this, we can make a million of them.
Yeah. I was really interested when I was reading the trivia about all of like the different plot ideas that they had. Like, I really liked the idea. Okay, the first premise of this is horrifying. Apparently, in one of the premises, the doll, the good guy doll or whatever it was going to be called, had blood and skin, like synthetic blood and skin, and that was part of the thing that you could put a Band-Aid on it. Ooh, fun. It's like those baby dolls that used to shit. Do you remember those?
Yes! Oh my
Yeah,
god, I literally thought of
I
that
had
same
one of
thing
those.
because I was like,
had
who
one of
would
those
buy
too.
this weird bleeding doll? And then I was like, I had a doll that peed that I was obsessed with.
Yeah, I had a doll
Yes.
that peed and shit, and I remember what it smelled like. And, like, it's just, yeah, I do. I don't know why I do. I remember it. It just came to my mind right now, and I'm upset about it.
What did it smell
We're gonna
like?
move on. It's hard to describe, but I can smell it in my brain. Does that
Oh my
make
God.
sense? Am I on drugs? What's happening?
I don't know. But I did look it up, and there are still some ones today or recent. You can buy one on Amazon right now.
Oh,
That's
wonderful!
called
Thank
like
God.
Snack and Lily Baby, but it's just Play-Doh that you like feed it Play-Doh, and then it just like goes down a tube inside the doll, presumably.
Amazing.
I
love
feel
that
like the
for
one
it.
that I had, it would take a while, which doesn't really
Yeah.
make sense. But I feel like
Same.
yeah, you like fed it or whatever. I think
You
it was
shake
Baby
it.
Alive, just based on my
Baby
research.
alive.
Yeah.
Baby alive.
And you
The
would like
feeling's
give
so
it.
real. Oh my God.
Baby
Yeah.
alive.
That just came out of me.
But it was like you would feed the baby, and then like 5 minutes later it would pee. Probably not 5
Yeah.
minutes. That's probably way too long for a child to wait. But like a minute, I don't know.
I know. I remember having to wait. It was before like we needed instant gratification as much as we do now with our phones and everything. So maybe we were patient as babies.
But I also think a minute to a 4-year-old probably felt like 5 years. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
True.
But anyway, okay, so Baby Alive, very similar kind of energy, but apparently this doll had blood and skin, and you could give it a Band-Aid in this
Which-
idea for the movie, which is like,
Horrifying.
but then it has the cut still forever.
Yeah,
so does it heal?
exactly.
Does it
Oh my
heal?
God, so
Like, oh my
scary.
God, there's just so many issues that I have. But apparently in the movie, the way that Chucky comes alive, and I love this, is
Mhm.
Andy is like, let's do a blood pact. Let's do a baby blood pact, which like love a blood pact. That's so fun. And so he cut Chucky's hand, and he cut his own hand and did a little handshake, and the blood of his own blood went into Chucky, and Chucky became alive. Love that. Definitely plot holes there, but I like that a lot better.
Yeah, that's true. I was like, that would be a whole interesting, completely different movie. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And maybe they did this. I got the vibe, at least from IMDb trivia, that they did a similar, not the blood pact part, but a similar concept for one of the sequels, which is that in the blood buddy theory of this movie, it's like the dog is a manifestation of Andy's anger, essentially, and it kills people that Andy doesn't like his babysitter, his teacher, etc.
I liked that too.
Which is a super interesting idea, and again, I got the impression, at least, that they do a similar plot line to that in one of the Child's Play sequels. Don't know if that's true, but I would love to see that movie where it's like the blood brothers, but it's just not this one, but it
More
is
of
fascinating. It's a fascinating
psychological
idea.
thriller. Yeah. Also, something that like is still shocking to me to this day, even after seeing this movie twice, I just really never knew that it wasn't called Chucky, the movie. I was like getting into watching like older horror movies like 2 years ago or something, and I was like, "Oh, Adam, we gotta watch Chucky," and he was like, "Yeah," and then I looked up Chucky, and on like Prime or something, and it didn't come up, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, where's the movie? Can I not watch it anywhere?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a freaking idiot." I mean, this name is definitely jazzier, it's sexier, but I really was sure. I was positive that it was just Chucky.
Yeah, I definitely think that is like the common takeaway, and I know for sure that I thought that at least at some point in my life as well. And there have been instances recording this episode where I keep calling it Chucky, or meaning to call it, like almost calling it Chucky, and then have to be like zoop zoop zoop. It's called Child's Play, because I just know that if I say it wrong 1,000,000 times, somebody's gonna get mad at me. You know what I mean? But
We're synonymous.
who cares? Don't know why I brought that up. What was I saying? Does anyone have any ideas? Nope, probably not.
No.
Nope.
I'm sure there's a way to chop it. Should we go into our segments? Any other hot button
Our
issues that you guys want to?
segmentos?
Please stop. Are there any
review my
other
notes.
hot button issues you want to bring up before then? My only important talking point to bring up was the doll black market.
Oh,
And also
can
Candyman.
I? One of my favorite quotes in this movie that I thought was so fucking funny was when Chucky is in the elevator by himself and he's going to find Andy, I think. And an old couple gets on the elevator and they're like, "Oh, look, somebody left their doll." And the old man is like, they'll come back for it. Let's not touch it. And as they get off, the woman is just like, what an ugly doll. And you just, as Chucky's going up, the Chucky's like, fuck you. It's just so funny.
Yeah, I mean, like, say what you will about Chucky, but he's a funny motherfucker, okay? He's got some great lines in this. He's a foul-mouthed piece of shit, but I like him a lot. I'm glad there's 7 more movies that I can watch.
So the sequel, the second one, is supposed to be better than the first one of this franchise. Yeah, like
okay, I'll watch it.
It's this one is like very serious, and the second one kind of leans more into the humor, I guess. I've only seen the first one.
Yeah.
But now it makes me want to watch the second one.
No, but Sydney, you've seen Bride of Chucky because don't you play his wife in that film? Don't you play Chucky's wife?
It's me.
I thought that was you. I was pretty sure.
Well, here's the thing. I haven't seen it because I refuse to watch any work that I'm actually in.
Oh, of course.
I understand that.
But so like I know the basic plot line of it. I refuse to acknowledge any of my own personal movies.
No, yeah, I totally relate to you on that. It's just like how I've never listened to the podcast. I can't handle it.
I've listened to it. I've listened to it in the car.
Someone needs to hold us accountable.
Yeah, I mean, Sydney obviously listens because she edits it, and so that is part of the job for her. I listen to it just to be like, what are we saying? What is on the record now that we've put into the universe and can be held accountable for? Sometimes I just like to do a little check, and also sometimes for social, I'm like, what have we said and what did we cover and what should we reference?
And I'm just like,
and you're just like, please nobody tell me, please nobody show me a recording of my own voice.
You can tell me about it, but I'm just not going to go in there myself. I will one day. I will. When I'm old and gray and I want to think back on the good old days. Okay. Anyway, enough about me. Yeah. What about our segments?
Wait, before we get to the segments, there are a couple.
Segmentos.
No, enough. Before we do that, there are a couple other things that I want to touch on. One of them is the completely tonally inappropriate, terrifying, very upsetting, unnecessary sexual assault scene in this movie. Why is that there?
We were just gonna pretend it didn't exist, and I was so excited to not remember it because that's the one part I blocked out from this movie. I was like, oh, the really fun peddler who's a rapist who has no teeth. We love that. That's so fun for everyone involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just like unnecessary when we already have a strangler. You know, we don't need further predators in this movie. Just hated it. Felt really out of place, but I didn't want to not comment on that because I think it needs to be said that I hated it.
It was not good. Very bad. Also, just like another opportunity for Cop Man to be like, I'll save the day, and I was just like, no, let self-sufficient Seventh Heaven mom save herself, but whatever. I mean, I just hate that it happened.
It also could have been literally anything else. You know what I mean? Like, he yoinked her purse out of her hands. He could have just, like, been like, give me your coat. Like, clearly you have a place to live. Let's go to your apartment and give me things. You know what I mean? There were a lot of options that it could have gone, especially when they're surrounded by a group of people. It didn't need to be that. And it felt...
Hated it.
I mean, maybe back in the day when people were watching this and it was legitimately scary, that would have been just like on par with the other scares, maybe. I don't think so. It felt so strange here. That aside, there are a couple other things that I just would like to note about this movie. One of them is that voice actor Brad Dourif, who voices Chucky, Charles Lee Ray, didn't meet Kevin Yeager, Seventh Heaven Mom's real life husband, until 2018, like a full 30. Is that 30 years? Yeah, it is. A full 30 years after this movie came out. Also, Jessica Walter, renowned icon, beloved actress Jessica Walter, who recently passed away, who was in Arrested Development. Apparently, she did some voice work for like the good doll Chucky when he's still Oscar or Zachariah or whatever. She did a little voice work there. Also, I need to put some shine on Andy, obviously. His name is Alex Vincent, but the kid who plays Alex in Leprechaun auditioned for this role, which is super interesting.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and John Lithgow, who we talked about on the Fly movie, auditioned to play Charles Lee Ray in the beginning, which is super interesting. So there's just like a lot of cool stuff going on here in terms of casting, which could be a transition point to a segment. If we're gonna go right to it, yeah. If we're going into casting, I think this would be a good time to see where Maddie Lily would fit in this movie. What do you guys think?
I would love for him to be Eddie.
Yes, that's what I thought too. Oh my god, I wrote it in my notes. It was one of the things. I rarely think these things out ahead of time. I usually just like go with what feels right in my heart at the moment. But this one I wrote in my head. I think he would be a great Eddie.
You'd be a great Eddie.
And he was
Eddie
like 18.
Had nothing going on.
Yeah, I googled how old Matthew Lillard was in 1988. As you know, I like to do so. And obviously they filmed it before 1988, but he was 18 that year. Who says Eddie can't be younger? You know what I mean? Who says?
Yeah, he's
that
already
Eddie
way
can't be,
younger.
Like, there's no reason why Charles Lee Ray and his apprentice would not be like a mentee. You know what I mean? There's no reason that Charles Lee Ray can't be an older man giving back to the serial killing community, you know?
Yeah, 100%. The
like a big brother program situation.
No, I think that checks out. Because I wouldn't want him to be Charles Lee Ray because I like the guy who plays Charles Lee Ray in his weird long hair. I don't know why I'm attracted to him. I'm going to go to therapy about it. Don't worry. And I don't want him to be a cop.
It's just like, I don't think he's supposed to be hot in this role. And so the fact that he was to you is just
not
like
everyone's cup of tea.
Something to ponder.
Another moment in the film, and this could be another person that he could be. I feel like Maddie Lily could have been the other cop. But just there was another moment in the film when he turned around and I wrote in my notes, "Who the fuck is this Uggo?" And then 5 seconds later, so mean. I wrote, "Oh, I'm actually attracted to him." And then 25 minutes later, I came back up to that note. I found it, and I was like, "What was I thinking?" I really had like a roller coaster. He turned around, and he's like, not much of his hair was there, and I just was like, I'm just upset. Also, I just hated him because he was like extra gaslighty to like Andy and wouldn't believe Seventh Heaven Mom and was being a dick up until the very end. And I actually loved when he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, now you're a psychopath too," to the cop guy, and then immediately Chucky just starts like throttling him with his tiny baby arm.
To be fair, everybody in this movie gaslighted somebody until that they saw the doll was alive for themselves. So I don't want to blame him for that too much, you know? Although when it gets to the point that it's 3 people saying the doll is alive, maybe you want to consider it. But I don't know. I've never been in a situation in which somebody was like, this doll is alive and it's a murderer, you know? one or the other. The doll is a murderer or
Mhm.
the doll is alive, but never
Well, I'm
both.
telling you right now, the puppets in my basement are alive, and I need you to believe me.
As long as
But-
they're not also murderers, I am willing to
I was about to say,
extend that
are they
belief.
murderers?
It's yet to be seen. It's yet to be seen. Pray for me.
Oh,
Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
before we move on to the next segment, I remembered what I wanted to bring up earlier, and then I was just kind of spitballing with the Jessica Walter casting stuff. Because I was like, I know there was something from my trivia that I wanted to get to, and I'm looking at Jessica Walter's name. One thing that I wanted to mention about this movie, is it was legitimately scary, and that's what they wanted to do. And I looked up the trailer, and the trailer is a really good horror trailer, but it also gives me the vibes of when people recut trailers for other movies to make it a horror trailer. You know what I mean? So it's like classic textbook, but also in a way that felt not necessarily representative of the actual tone of the movie. But one thing that IMDb told me about that is they originally wrote a song about Chucky for the credits. And they decided that it made the movie like not so scary once the credit rolled, and it was I don't remember the song. I did find it and I will share it on social. But they were like, maybe it's weird to have the movie end and then the credits are like, I'm a doll, my name's Chucky and I like to kill. You know what I mean?
Oh my god. Okay, I love your song. In my mind, it was the Josie and the Pussycat song, but it's like Chucky and the murder doll or something like that. So that type of energy.
Lots of great music spontaneously coming out of this episode.
You know, there's just, it's in our soul, the beat. It's there.
But yeah, they wrote a whole song about it. I wish I could find the whole song. Maybe I'll try harder to find it later. But I did find the trailer, and I will be sharing that with both of you and also with anybody who would like to find it on our social media. It is incredible. It is super funny, but also the trailer itself is great. And I just wanted to give some shine to that.
As someone who only watches horror movie trailers in their free time, I can't wait to watch it. I love a good trailer.
I think that's funny. I know somebody who also like hates horror movies, but loves watching the trailers.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Like refuses to watch horror movies, but constantly sends me horror movie trailers.
They're like, I will
They
be
love
scared, but only for 2 minutes at a time.
Yeah, that's it. Like,
That's a good boundary to have, I think.
It. It's good. It's just a taste. It's wonderful. Okay, so my favorite one of our segments, how could it be Gare? Can it be Gare? The answer is always yes. And I feel like it's so obvious here that if they'd only had more time, that Seventh Heaven mom would have put her Christianity aside and realized that she is in love with the sexy mama that is Maggie. And it would have been a wonderful pairing. Maggie's already all the way there. She's ready. She's in it to win it. She loves Andy. She loves the family.
Maggie's full gay to me in this movie because there's nothing
100%.
to indicate otherwise. It's like, you know, sometimes we have to be like, sure, this character has directly expressed an interest in a man, but I believe in my heart that she's a lesbian. There's nothing here to contradict my narrative that Maggie is a lesbian.
No, she's like, I haven't had a date in a while. They never said the gender of the person that she went on a date with.
It's right there in the subtext, baby. It's right there.
It's honestly, it's basically in the text. Just look at her, you know.
I will say, I did kind of appreciate the vibes between the cop and Seventh Heaven mom. You know what I mean? I didn't like it at first when he was like, are you gonna call me? I was like, ew. But by the end of the movie, I was like, okay, well, now they've been through this experience together, and I do feel like they're bonded and they care about each other, and I would support them becoming a family unit. But Maggie is gay. And I would say another potential gay couple in the movie, obviously we know from the sequels that Charles Lee Ray has his gal Tiffany, but who's to say that he's not a bisexual king, and that Eddie isn't his boyfriend? You know what I mean?
And he just felt so betrayed by his partner in life and crime.
He's like, that's my boyfriend, and he left me behind. Obviously, I have to kill him. Obviously.
Yeah. TBH, I do get that queer energy from him. Maybe that's why I'm attracted to him.
You're just like, I can tell he's bisexual. I can tell.
I can just feel it.
You know that
You just
we
smell
love bisexual men.
it. It's true. It's true. So, is our next one dumb bitch? Like it's been.
Yeah.
We did it out of order, so who knows?
Do we have an order? I feel like we kind of just wing it, but dumb bitch is always
We
last.
always do gay,
Gay.
Maddie, Lily,
Oh.
dumb bitch.
Oh my god, where have I been?
I don't know, but it's okay. I like that we mixed it up today. It keeps me on my toes, but obviously I fell over because I didn't remember.
It's doll month, baby. Everything
It's
is
doll
different,
month.
but
Mix
the
it up for
The
doll
episode
month.
art is different. The vibe is different. We're singing now. It's unbelievable. It's unprecedented. I'm flailing wildly in the studio. I'm in my bedroom. Let it be clear.
We could be people who have studios. Nobody knows.
This is my home studio. I'm in my home studio.
I'm also in my
That's
home
what this
studio.
is.
It just happens to be my couch.
Yeah, it's a great studio. It's wonderful. Okay, so dumb bitch. Besides me, who is the dumb bitch in this movie, I feel like I don't have that strong of feelings. There's no overwhelmingly obvious person who I hate because they're so dumb. Because, I mean, besides, like, Chucky himself, but, like, he's not dumb, really, in my opinion. He's kind of good at being a live doll, a reborn doll, if you
I'll
will.
throw out some nominations. How about that?
I have a nom
I
as
have
well.
one name in mind.
But I actually, what is it?
The cop.
Which one?
Which one?
The main one?
Mike. Yeah.
But he turns it
What?
around so quickly.
He's kind of a dumb bitch because you should not ask out the mom of a child who you think just committed a murder and you're still investigating them. That's dumb bitch behavior. But he does immediately pick up the toy hammer at the scene and be like, possible murder weapon. And the other guy laughs at him, but he is right.
But
Yeah.
what we touched on earlier. Yes.
When he's like, he doesn't, we don't know exactly. He kind of plays it off, but he says like, are you going to call me? And she's like, why would I call you? And he's like, I don't like loose ends. And you could read it as about the case because clearly he still thinks that Andy did a murder. And the mom doesn't think that, but you know, there's going to be more to come. But I felt that it was flirty.
That went right over
I
my head.
wrote in my notes, is that a flirt?
He's not very good at it.
But we touched earlier, a big thing with him was like he gets attacked by the doll and like doesn't even bring it up. Dumb bitch.
That is a dumb bitch.
But he doesn't explicitly say there was no killer doll there. You know what I mean? He kind of just like walks around it. He's like, I'm just not ready to fully come to terms with it, so we're just gonna not talk about that. But I am interested in your investigation now, and I'm gonna see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is hard for people to come to terms with the fact that men who die can use the power of electricity from the sky to transport their soul into a doll. That's a lot for someone, especially for a man as straight-laced as him. So I'll give him an okay pass for that, but the fact that his masculinity is too tall for him to say, I was wrong, Seventh Heaven Mom, makes me hate him, like, a lot. But for me, like, I just, like, didn't care about him at all. Like, even though he's in the movie, like, almost the most, I just, like, couldn't care about him enough to even hate him.
Yeah.
But the person who I hated the most, I can't figure out for sure what their name is. And I think that I said it was Walter earlier, and I think I Googled it. I think it was Wes. And that's the supervisor. It was Walter?
The
when
boss,
I looked it up, it said Wes. And then when I looked on IMDb, there was no character named Walter.
Well, I definitely wrote in my notes that his name is Walter. So the boss
did
in the
I.
beginning, his name is Walter. And don't let IMDb gaslight you.
It just gaslit me. I'm like, well, Andy, I started to believe that I did the murders. Like, but anyway, I 100% wish that there had been a murdering of Walter scene because he's just a douchebag.
Oh, okay. sorry, I'm looking at IMDb. I believe Mr. Criswell is Walter. Mr. Criswell.
Oh, okay. Well, Maggie definitely sassily calls him Walter. He's like, Walter, chill out, or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hate him. He's the dumb bitch for me because Seventh Heaven Mom is a great employee and a great mother, and he won't let her live her life and be there for her son on his 6th birthday.
And,
Soulless piece of shit.
Yeah, Maggie was willing to take that shift. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, she works in shoes. She doesn't work in jewelry. But, like, it's one night. How hard can it be to work in jewelry? Not to belay the skills that Seventh Heaven Mom brings to her job. But it's not like Maggie doesn't work at that store. I just feel like for one evening, it would be manageable.
I couldn't agree more.
You've got to have some kind of policy in place for sick days and vacation days, etc. You know what I mean? This is a complaint about like labor and how workforces work in general, but you shouldn't be able to be like, you have scheduled time off, you're not working a shift, but I can just mandate that you have to do it anyway. I don't think that's how it should work.
Dumb bitch. He's a dumb bitch.
I would also like to give Charles Lee Ray a small nomination, though. I don't think he should win because, again, he thinks on his feet pretty well, and also, you know, he just keeps going, and he manages to get around great. And also, there are some scenes where he runs super fast, but then there are other scenes where he runs super slow, and so that's a little weird. It's like, where's your super speed now, Chucky? But what I want to give him a nomination for is for learning all about this magic and this chant in order to put his soul into a vessel without ever learning what comes next. You know what I mean? He doesn't know that the vessel will slowly become human and therefore permeable to pain and wounds, etc. He doesn't know that if he doesn't go back into the body of the person he first told his secret, he will stay in that particular vessel forever. Presumably that part also applies to humans. I mean, again, we talked about this earlier, but maybe he didn't think he would ever have to use it on a doll. Maybe he intended to use it on a person. But you'd think then you would want to know, like, do I stay in this person? Can I go back to another body? Can I keep moving around? You know what I mean? Apparently it's limited, but he just got like no further information and was like, this is enough for me. And I think that is dumb bitch behavior. We watched another movie that I won't say what it is for spoiler purposes, but we watched another movie about body switching with our spooky crew recently, and that had some, you know, set rules about like how things work. Clearly there are rules in this movie. Voodoo is like a real religion in certain places. Obviously lots of movies are like, we're just gonna have fun, be loose with it, we're just gonna do whatever we want. But I think, you know what I mean, this is just like culturally appropriative behavior from Charles Lee Ray to be like, I will use this for my own purposes, and no more. You know what I mean? Like, it's like Gremlins. This is what happens when you decide you want something from another culture for yourself and you don't bother to be educated on the subject. You either get stuck in a doll body or you create a whole bunch of gremlins, you know?
Yeah.
No in between.
No in between.
Seriously, just don't do it. Don't be a fucking idiot. Do your homework. Finish the TED Talk, please. Okay, I feel like in this one we can't decide on one dumb bitch. I feel like there's some light winners all around. And I think that that's okay.
Well, I would also like to give a small nomination to Dr. Ardmore, just because, you know, he did his best, but also he left a small child like locked in a room. That feels like a bad hospital situation to me. But ultimately, you're right. I think there's not one strong dumb bitch here, and maybe we have to respect that.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little bitches, but no big
No
bitch.
big dumb bitch.
But now that you've said that, I guess I'm willing to get on board with Walter, because I did write in my notes that he was a big bitch baby.
Yeah, and I also wrote, I want him to die, death to Walter, in my notes. So I felt strongly.
Okay, then we're giving it to Walter.
Walter.
Walter,
Sir,
you're
I
the
hope
dumb
that you
bitch.
die in the sequel. Okay, so finally we're at our knives out of fives. And I mean, I loved this movie, so I'm excited to see what you guys thought and what you want to rate it. So who wants to go first?
Well, on IMDb, this movie got 6.6 out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it got 71% fresh from critics and 63% fresh from audiences. So it was generally well received. I also really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, most of the time when I had a question, it was immediately answered. I think it was a pretty well done film overall, and I also totally have appreciation for the fact that I am sure it was terrifying at its time.
Yeah.
So for me, I guess I would probably give it like a 4.5, like a 4.5. Strong, but you know me, I'm pretty generous with my ratings. And so this is to say that I really liked it about as much as I liked The Fly, which I also gave a 4.5. Now that I'm looking at my grand roundup of knives out of fives.
Sydney, do you want to go next? Because I don't.
I'm giving mine a 4 out of 5.
Ooh,
I still love this movie. It holds up. It's rewatchable. It has good suspense. It has good everything. Like, it's honestly such a good movie, but I just don't watch, like, it's not a movie that I like am drawn to like constantly watch all the time, but when I do watch it, I have a great time.
It's a treat. Yeah. It's a special treat.
Yes.
Special treat. You can't do doll shit every day, but you can do it for a month straight.
For a whole month, yeah.
For a whole month. Do it for a month straight. Chelsea, please remind me, what did I give The Fly?
You gave The Fly a 4.333333333, etc.
Okay. I'm gonna give this one a 4.123456789. Because it just obviously deserves that exact rating, and also because I cannot rate it higher than The Fly, because The Fly is way better and it's amazing and it's horrifying and it's terrifying and I want to watch it again, even though I watched it last week. And this movie, really, really good. Love what they do with the doll. Love his little angry face. Love that he is a man who is a doll who changes in size and shape throughout the film. And I love that he's a child, a little person, an animatronic, a normal doll. He does all of it. He does it all. He's everywhere. He's everything at once and nothing at all. And it's very spiritual, overwhelming at times. But, you know, again, the real standout star is Andy, the little baby child. And I will watch this movie at least 5 more times in my life just to see that cute little baby who made me think maybe I want a child. But then as soon as the movie's over, I think, never mind.
Better not.
Oh, better not. Better to not. Just because what if this exact scenario happens where I buy a black market doll and then it comes alive and it tries to kill me.
Just
and it kills my lesbian best friend.
Don't risk it.
Can't risk it. I wouldn't put all my gay friends' lives on the line like that, so don't worry, I won't be doing it.
Thank you so much. That's so generous.
You're welcome.
So thoughtful.
So that'll do it for Child's Play. I hope that you enjoyed your first endeavor into Doll Month. It's gonna be a thrilling, wild ride. We're musical now. We're just really possessed by the spirit of these dolls, and it's gonna be really inspiring. And so I forgot what movie we're doing next week.
Speaking of possessed dolls,
but I didn't. It's your personal favorite, Monica.
Your favorite, Monica.
Annabelle Creation.
Oh, damn it! I couldn't remember if we were doing Annabelle Creation next. Okay. I love Annabelle Creation. This is the movie that made me think, we should cover The Conjuring. And then I was like, why? Why did we do this? I never want to see that movie again. But Annabelle was a great thing to come out of that film that is only mediocre. I'm ostracizing so many fans right now.
It's okay. We already covered it and said it was mediocre. So, I mean, they're either on board with us or they're not.
Deal with it. But, okay, I'm really hoping that Annabelle Creation lives up to my memory because, damn, I thought it was a banger when I saw it in theaters. And I punched a man whose name is Walter, weirdly.
Oh.
Not the same one, not the one that I just wished death upon 5 minutes ago. In the arm very hard while watching this film because I was so scared. So hopefully I feel that same sort of just like irate terror this time around. Have you guys seen it?
Mm-mm.
I don't know if I have or not. Like, I'm thinking of a movie that it might be.
Are you thinking of The Conjuring?
Well, there's so many Annabelle movies.
And I can't tell, like, I don't know if I've seen the first one or this one. Is this one, like, set in, like, the 60s or 50s?
Set in, like, the olden times. Something in the past. I don't know. I have no idea when. I didn't pay attention to that. I was in the theater. I was punching men.
Okay.
I hadn't have time to see what date it was. But yeah, it's definitely set like back in the day. It's not a modern movie at all. It's
okay,
the
so
creation.
I think I've seen like bits and pieces of it, but I don't like. Obviously, I don't remember if I've seen it, but I know I've seen it.
Okay.
So I don't know anything that's gonna happen.
Well, hopefully it's the nonstop terror ride that it was when I saw it before, and buckle up if so. If not, let me unhype it. It's not that good. It's bad, just like The Conjuring, and you're not gonna be scared at all. So there you go.
Well,
but
one or the other.
One or the other, we'll have to find out. Isn't that an enticing way to lead you on to listening to next week's episode?
I'm now nervous to watch this because what if I hate it and Monica's gonna yell at me?
But that's always a risk that you take, Sydney,
okay,
unfortunately.
Okay.
So, I mean, you know.
I'll try to curb my anger. I'll do my very best.
Regardless, it will be a further celebration of Doll Month. And I'm just so excited that we're doing this.
I'm really excited too as we go on this journey with you both.
Mm-hmm.
So if you liked what you heard, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Write something nice. Tell us we're pretty. Maybe comment on the podcast as well. There's so many options. Additionally, please follow us on all of our beautiful social media platforms at spooky_Tuesday.
Bye, Spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.
Andy, no, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.